Three, two, one.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Dash Trader Newsroom. This is our session for May 28th, 2021. Sell in May and go away or stay for a summer rally. And my name is Michael DeGioia. I am the Director of Educational Services, and I'm a licensed professional here at Dash Trader. And I'm joined by my co-host, Jill Malandrino. Jill, global markets reporter from Nasdaq. Jill, how are you doing today?
Good, doing well. Good to see you.
Ready for Memorial Day, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Memorial Day weekend is here. So it's the unofficial start of summer. And we are going into Memorial Day with yet more inflationary concerns, and consumer prices are on the rise, as is indicated by this little statistic that we have here on the screen. So what are your thoughts on everything, all prices are rising and very sharply. I haven't seen rises in prices like this since the financial crisis.
Yeah, there's a couple things at work here. And certainly we're seeing it in the housing sector. I feel like a fire hose has been, like we're drinking from a fire hose in terms of demand, right? We're 50% of the American adult population is vaccinated. We have less restrictions now. In fact, today's the first day in New Jersey you can dine indoors without the mask. And people want to go out. Last weekend alone, we were out in Jersey City with a group of people. We had a party on Saturday, a party on Sunday, I had girls night out with my girlfriends on Wednesday, and everything has been packed. Even looking at traffic, I was just looking at a few things on social media, getting out of the city yesterday, because now that we can all work remotely, you can go down to the beach and work from the beach on Friday, especially on a weekend like this. There is so much pent up demand. We're seeing it when it comes to travel, whether you're booking hotels, rental cars, you're seeing it in prices everywhere. Part of it is you have that natural demand. Part of it is too that there's just not enough people that are able to fulfill this demand. We know what's happening with the worker shortage. So it's a confluence of all these factors at work. And certainly those are causing prices to shoot up. Prices at the pump have risen with the move in crude. We're seeing what's happening in housing. I can't even recall anything like this even prior to the financial crisis. We're still in a historically low rate environment. The issue is everything is bottlenecked. You have people have been priced out of first-time home buyer income levels have been priced out. You have sellers that are reluctant to sell for fear of not being able to find a home to replace. New builds, builders are having to increase prices there just because of the costs. I heard something today that they're not even setting prices, they're actually having auctions for new builds for that reason. So there's just everything. It's like a perfect storm.
You bought at the right time.
We did. We moved at the right time. We even our house, I found it on Zillow on Monday, saw it with my broker on Wednesday. We were in contract by the end of the weekend. We got them right under the wire before rates started moving. But even here, I believe it's like 4 or 5 full offers with at least half down on almost every house. So it's incredibly competitive. But the issue is now, Mike, I don't know when I'm gonna get furniture. We're thinking maybe end of June, some pieces, anything that's custom made, of course, with the fabrics, end of July, August. One of my headboard has custom fabric, and that's been delayed because the fabric comes from India, and we all know what's happening there. So there's just shortages everywhere, but even in labor. I know someone who's redoing their kitchen. They can't get it started. It was supposed to start in June. They don't know when now. A, they can't get laborers, and B, they can't get drywall. Yep. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was helping my sister at her restaurant in Cedar Key, Florida for a week. And the 3 of the other restaurants, her restaurant was absolutely packed. Her husband had fallen down and hurt himself, so that's why I was helping out. And the other 3 restaurants couldn't get wait staff. So they closed, or they were having like order at the bar service. So because they were having a problem getting anybody to work, it was really difficult for the other restaurants to open or stay fully open because they were having, worker shortages.
But that's interesting because Florida has been, for the most part, open. Like nothing.
Florida has been open, but I guess there's still a worker shortage on Cedar Key. So, it's a small island. It's like 700 people that live on the island, and it's been absolute, like normally summer is not even like a busy time. It's like usually like a dead time, and it's boom. It was packed every day.
That sounds amazing. Part of the issue is too with people not going back to work, and of course we know what happened with stimulus checks and the fact that they're making more money being home. And it's not. I had a couple guests on my show saying, "Oh, people are lazy; they don't want to work." That's not the. I don't think that's 100% the case. The cost of childcare and commuting is so ridiculous that it's almost, it doesn't pay to go to work sometimes. And the thing is, some schools in the New York, New Jersey area are not fully reopened yet. So I don't think we're going to see that influx of workers until late August, early September, when kids are back in school, because that's where you have to think about childcare costs. That's a huge part of it.
Yeah, sometimes there's a cost benefit analysis of how much money will I make versus how much I'm going to pay to somebody else to take care of my kid while I go back to work. So I think that definitely plays in the Northeast where things are more expensive. In Florida, I think it's just that Florida is absolutely booming. Like even outside of Cedar Key, I went to Sarasota, Naples, and I had like a family reunion in Orlando, and I mean, every single place was booming. I mean, the lines at the airport were tremendous, like when I was leaving.
But Mike, look how many people have left the tri-state area, California, super high tax states. We know how to work remotely now. Everyone's sick of the weather up here.
Many
Where are they
people are
going?
living in their summer home.
Florida, Puerto Rico. I had a hotel owner on my show this afternoon, and he was like, "Jill, it's not even that it's low tax. It's people know how to work remotely now. They're coming down here. They instantly feel healthier, happier. It's good weather. You can be outside. You get exercise, beautiful walks." He's like, it's not going back. So it's not a matter of reopening. It's just a matter of so many people moving.
Just massive migration and change. A lot of people that I met, they just moved to their summer house, made their summer house their primary house. That just seemed to be the, like, especially in very corporate places like Sarasota, where there's lots of big corporations, and Naples, and the other one was Tampa. Tampa was booming. So those were the cities that I noticed. I wasn't on the East Coast, but certainly it seemed like Florida was just like, I had never seen it like that before. Very, very packed in summertime when it's hot. So either way, let's move right along. So speaking about good economic data, right? The U.S. post-pandemic opening has indicated that possibly there might be a surge around the world in Europe and other places, which, now the U.S. is really, I mean, I would say it's fully open with the exception of some places, very few places. But the boom, the resurge boom seems to be indicating that we're going to have kind of like a roaring 20s situation. Certainly we've talked a little bit about it. So how do you think the world is going to fare? Is the US a good indicator of the world? Because as we've seen in places like India, and Africa and in South America, certainly access to vaccinations is not the same. Even in Europe, I would say vaccination levels, with the exception of the United Kingdom, are nowhere near the level of the United States. And the program, I think it's called COVAX, I think it was called, that was supposed to help vaccinate the entire world, doesn't seem to have worked at all. So even though the US is surging back to life, as is England, or the United Kingdom, what are your thoughts about if that's transferable to the rest of the world, or we're going to see this in the rest of the world?
Yeah, what's interesting is domestically, we're doing well, and it's only getting better. My concern is, though, I mean, even the business travel side of it domestically has picked up, but there's still restrictions with cross-border, even if you look at the EU within the countries there too. I know at Nasdaq, we do not have approval yet to travel internationally unless it's like a significant, we have to get like executive vice president approval. I think it's just not open yet. So I feel like it's going to be really strong here in the summer domestically, but it remains to be seen what's going to happen from an international perspective. We have to see how this plays out with variants, how these vaccinations respond to them. Dr. Gottlieb was on CNBC for Closing Bell just before, like 10 minutes before the market closed. And he was saying what they're going to be looking for in the fall is how the flu is going to be impacted, because since no one really got, I mean, the numbers were ridiculous. Nobody had the flu last year because we were masking up, we were socially distanced and so forth. So they don't even know what strains are going to evolve and how vaccinations are going to respond to that. And then if we have increase in flu, how is that going to interact with what's happening with COVID and variants? So we're excited. It's the summer. I think we're going to have to just wait and see how flu season and colder months play out and what the international reopening trade is going to look like. Because from a corporate perspective for the airlines, the hotels and so forth, that's where the money is. But I think we just have to see what back to school, all the kids going back to school with cooler weather coming in, if there could be any restrictions on the back end. And I think that companies have to be aware of that. We have to be aware of things like that. Who knows? We learned so much by wearing masks. Perhaps, people are going to continue to commute with masks on. I didn't flew with the cold last year. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So I wonder, I'm curious to see how behavior changes because of that.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense. And we got to see how these various different strains, particularly this one that's comes from India, because that's certainly, I know that they were concerned about that in the United Kingdom and, and how that might affect the rest of the world.
Right, but when do we move on from that? I mean, we can't, from, a business perspective, and even for families that have members overseas, we can't be isolated forever. I mean, our world is just too.
I already moved on. You know that.
Yeah.
I already bounced back. I think that we just got to adapt to it. And like you said, if wearing a mask during travel is the new thing to do, I mean, they've been doing that in Asia for years.
Mm-hmm.
I think since SARS 1, you would always see Asian people wearing masks because they experienced SARS 1 and they experienced the swine flu very badly. I think they had the avian flu. They've had a number of other, and look, I've always seen in New York City, especially, I mean, we have a very big Asian community here in New York City. I've always seen Asian people getting off the airplane and sometimes in public transit wearing masks. The other new normal is the apparent continuation of cyber attacks. Microsoft reported that there was a Russian-based hacker attack using USAID. They hacked into USAID and they did a phishing attack onto another 150 major corporations' email systems. And phishing is when they send you an email that looks like it's USAID sending you an email, and then they ask you to fill in information, and then they get your information by you filling in your information on the email that they sent you. But it seems like cyber attacks and cybersecurity is a very, very it's a big problem, the cyber attack, and cybersecurity seems like an up and coming and continually necessary and ever necessary requirement in business these days. Just love to get your thoughts on the cybersecurity sector and on these kind of ongoing cyber attacks, especially after the Colonial pipeline that got shut down by a ransomware attack. Which actually yielded, I had said $5 million. It turned out to be something like $90 million, which was an incredible sum. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is, I wonder if we fell behind the cyber curve as Russia and China kind of up their game. I don't recall us being so laser focused on cyber as much as we are right now. Of course, the Colonial pipeline is fresh in everyone's head. I know there's a conversation around cryptocurrency and what that means with cyber attacks and so forth. I don't think, that's highly debated. But separately, I don't think crypto's going anywhere for that reason alone. But
crypto just seems to be the way that they get paid, right? I mean, that's the payment of choice.
Right, but these were going on even before.
Absolutely.
Was around. So like the digital asset thing isn't going anywhere. But
it was a wire to a Swiss bank account back then, right? I mean,
right. I feel like criminals are going to criminal, right? And they will figure it out and get around. But yeah, I think this is, out of all the issues, 2021 and going forward, perhaps it's not necessarily physical warfare, but it's the cyber warfare that we really need to pay attention to. It impacts pipelines and water systems, and everything we do is so interconnected. I mean, look at something as basic as cars and semiconductors and the technology side of it. Look at the shortages they have there. Every single thing we do is so interconnected. everything's on the cloud. We're all fighting for the same resources, but these guys are good, and we need to get better. And it's not a thing where we can be, whether it's the U.S. government or companies, be reactive to it. They have to be proactive. So I think it'll be interesting to see how newer technologies, predictive technologies, will come into play, because we think about cybersecurity, but how could AI or machine learning, once they understand the behavior of it, what could that look like? So I think it's going to be interesting to see how the newer technologies evolve around this.
So, I mean, we know Palantir is a cybersecurity company. Barracuda Soft, I think, was another one that was, well known. I mean, what are some of the other big name cybersecurity companies that you know off the top of your head? Obviously, we know like Microsoft has cybersecurity elements to it.
And most companies do have. I mean, look at Nasdaq, for example. I mean, we have a pretty extensive cybersecurity team here ourselves. I mean, everybody has to have some sort of cyber team. I think when you look, and I always think about concentration risk, but I would take a look at ETFs that have all these cyber companies, and not the things that you see with the ETFs are not just cyber specific companies. They will have companies that have cyber within their DNA. So, for example, Microsoft would be a great example of that. I think the cyber ETFs are really interesting. Almost like when you think about space ETFs, it's not just Virgin Galactic that's in there, but all the other derivative companies off of that. When you think of EV, same thing there as well. It's not just Tesla; it's all the other suppliers to it. So I think cyber ETFs are interesting to look at, and there's a number of thematics out there.
Absolutely, a good suggestion. And that brings me to my favorite part of today's presentation. Please note that the U.S. stock markets will be closed in observance to Memorial Day. That's this Monday. Dash Trader will be observing this holiday as well, so our office will be closed. Jill, I want to wish you an amazing Memorial Day. And if anybody wants to trade, I think you had a great suggestion for anybody who cannot get enough of trading when the market closes on 4 o'clock on Friday. What can they do this holiday weekend?
Cryptocurrency 24/7. And I'm sure there'll be some story. There's never a shortage of headlines to trade there. So, Mike, have an amazing holiday to anyone on here who has served. Thank you for your service. We'll be thinking of you on Memorial Day. And have a good weekend.
Yes, and you enjoy your holiday as well. Have a good time and good luck in the Bahamas. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna jump to the charts right now. Just give me 2 seconds so that I can switch my screen. Here we go. Just sharing my screen to my other main screen. Here you go. All right, so here we are. Hopefully you can see my Dash Trader software. I'm just going to bring up a couple of the charts and a couple of the indicators. So this is our Dash Trader platform. We have our market maker screen here. We have our time and sales right here. And of course, my favorite thing of all, our charts. I'm just going to pop open our charts. Now, I'm actually just going to right click and I'm going to go to load settings, because I'd like to have a chart on here that doesn't just have the MACD. I'm going to bring up a chart that has the MACD and the CCI. Okay, so here is the CCI and here is the MACD. I also have my RSI on here, but I'm not going to actually, maybe we'll keep the RSI on there for a moment. I'll snap off the RSI. And the way you do that is you just go to chart area and then you go to remove area. It gives you a little bit more space on your screen. So here we go. We have our MACD. Now, there's a couple things I'd like to point out on this chart. I'm just going to double check to make sure.
Hey, Mike, I hate to interrupt you, but your screen isn't being shared right now. We always see the PowerPoint.
No problem. Hold on one second. That's strange. Can you see it now?
All good.
Oh, good. Thank you so much, Ryan. So let me go back and just recap a little bit. So we have my charts here. So this is my Dash Trader software. This is my market maker screen, my time and sales. We have our, our big board. This is our market view. This is my chart. If I want to maximize the chart size, I just pop it up there and go maximize chart. Now I did have the RSI on here. I'll just show you how I can load settings. And I have a bunch of pre-configured options. I've already made all the charts that I like to use with the different indicators that I like to use. So here is the RSI price by volume, MACD, moving averages, and CCI on a chart. Now, what I did was I went up here and I right-clicked, and then I went remove chart area, remove area. So I took the RSI off there so that I only have my CCI. Now, I want to show you something that's very interesting. So the markets are at all-time highs, SPY. Let's just take a look at the SPY. SPY, our point of control is very, very close. So our price by volume point of control is right here. We have a divergence on our CCI. The only thing that is looking very, very bullish, like a possible breakout to the upside, is the MACD. The MACD has just crossed its signal line and is at the lower end of its range. The histogram has also just turned positive. So the MACD is giving us a possible indication that we might be a breaking out to the upside. Now, the point of control, when you go a little bit further back, moves down to 390 on the price by volume. But if you go a little bit further to the more current time frame, this is the price by volume level, the tipping point. So, I mean, you're getting a lot of mixed signals right now on the various indicators. So we don't know if we're going to break out to the upside for a summer rally, or if we're going to get a sell in May sell-off. But certainly it can go either way. So if you have profits, it's always safe to take some profits off the table. And the funny thing is that we're not just getting that on the DIA. Also looks like a possible breakout. It's come back up and retested its prior high area. So this was the prior high before a short-term sell-off. But we're kind of up here on virtually no volume at all. We certainly have that divergence going on in the CCI, and our MACD is potentially crossing back over the signal line. So last but not least, we usually have a little bit of a different story on the Nasdaq, because the QQQ, which represents the Nasdaq 100, certainly has that same divergence, but it's got a high and a lower high, and it's already crossed over on its MACD signal line. And the point of control is down here at 312, 313 area. So certainly the NASDAQ has a slightly different picture. And the reason for that is that inflation affects technology companies differently than value companies like the SPY and the DIA. Certainly, let's take a look at gold, because usually gold does very well when inflation kicks in. And that's exactly the story here. Gold made a move up from the 160 area all the way up to 178. We had a crossover on the MACD, and the MACD is just like railroad tracks moving higher. Although we are starting to come into some resistance in the 182 level. I'm going to take a look at gold on the weekly, because on the weekly, we're looking at a possible indication and breakout much, much higher, revisiting that 195 all-time high resistance level. So probably gold's got some further upside to go on the weekly. And gold is looking very, very strong, especially as it's a hedge against inflation. GBTC, right? We had the Bitcoin meltdown, which happened, 2-3 weeks ago. As Bitcoin, you could see the crossover on the signal line on the MACD. You could see the MACD signal line had moved really, really far away. We had a huge divergence on the on the CCI as well. So really, every indication, it was really that Bitcoin had gotten overbought and was ready for a tumble. If you looked at the MACD or the CCI, I mean, there were lots of signals. If I'm going to actually put my RSI on there too, because the RSI was an early trigger as well. Load settings. Just going to load up my RSI on there. All right, so here you could see the RSI has been trending down for a long, long time. And certainly this was the top and the double top and the kind of divergence there on the RSI. I'll take that off. Okay, but we got some really clear indications on this. Is this is GBTC. This is GBTC. This is the tracking stock of Bitcoin. Okay. This is it's by Grayscale. Next one, let's take a look at ExxonMobil, right? They just had a very big activist shareholder vote. And that was one of our top picks from January of this year. And certainly it's done very, very well. We're going to continue to mention that one as well as the year goes on. I do think that oil is still looking good, especially after the Colonial Pipeline issue, right? Driving up oil prices further. But on top of that, just a really, really active summer season usually does well for oil, right? A lot of oil usage and consumption. American Airlines taking off as well. Even with oil prices up, American Airlines looking a lot better. We take a look at DAL, Delta Airlines doing well as well. I believe this is Royal Caribbean. Not sure if this signal is showing, but either way. Let's take a look at Microsoft, MSFT. Microsoft in a strong uptrend, right? We talked about Microsoft as kind of one of our companies with a strong cybersecurity component. I mean, Microsoft up here at 250, certainly breaking out to the upside, and doing very, very well during the course of the entire pandemic. Amazon having some issues, certainly about antitrust issues, but still here at 3,223. So Amazon actually has a bit of a divergence on the CCI, and the MACD can go either way. So Amazon is one of the main leaders of the technology sector. So I like to look at Amazon, Facebook at all-time highs. However, it does have a divergence on its CCI. And the last one I always like to look at is Apple. Apple also has a divergence and a lower high. So if I were to look at Apple and Amazon, Facebook looking a little stronger than the others, certainly technology has a little bit of turbulence in the near term. Let me jump back to my slideshow. All right, so here we go. Okay, today we released our fourth of our 8-part video series, the technicals on Dash Trader. I believe this one was the MACD. We talked about the MACD indicator. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the MACD that I had on the charts today, you can certainly check that out. Visit our Dash Trader Pro YouTube channel to view it. Stay up to date with all things Dash by signing up to our monthly newsletter emails. You can do that at www.dashtrader.com. You could subscribe to our YouTube channel at Dash Trader TV or Dash Trader Newsroom to get some reminders. We are on social media, so you can get all kinds of updates and follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I want to wish everybody a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. If you need to get your trading fix, you got crypto that you can continue to trade the markets with crypto. But I think maybe if you took a beautiful break and remember all the soldiers who served in the various wars to keep us free. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend, and be well, everybody. Trade well as well. Bye.